It's Super Bowl week. We are edging closer and closer to Super Bowl 55. Hello, everybody. If you are a regular listener of the show, welcome back. If this is your first time tuning in, boy, you've chosen a good one to join us for. I'm Alex, one of your hosts this evening. I'm also joined by Ian and Kieran.
Hi.
Hi.
But that's not all. We have a very special guest for you. We have ex-cricketer turned commentator, NFL host, and most importantly, he supports the best team in the NFL, which of course is the Buccaneers. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome Charles Dagnall. Hello, Charles. How are you doing?
Hello. Nice to see you. And an absolute pleasure to be on a program that's, well, arguably all of us have waited the best part of 20 years to try and reproduce. So absolutely delighted to be asked on such a special week.
Thank you, Charles. It's an absolute pleasure. And on behalf of all of us here at Bucs UK, thank you for taking the time to come and join us. It's a thrill to have you on. And we're just going to enjoy this. So thank you ever so much. Right, Ian, let's just get straight into it. I'm going to hand the reins over to you for the first part of the show. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Alex, and just add my welcome and thanks again, Charles, for joining us. Wanted to mention first of all that many of our viewers and listeners are stateside, so some may already be thinking, what is this sport they call cricket? But you'll be pleased to know that I'm not going to ask you to describe the game of cricket to our American friends. But before we dive into all things Bucs, can you just say a few words about your career as a cricketer and also how you became a professional commentator on cricket and also on the NFL?
I'm going to try and do my best in the shortest possible time frame that we can. I'm very glad that I don't have to describe the game of cricket because we would be here until the Super Bowl kicked off. I was a former professional cricketer, pro sportsman for about 10 years. In essence, I wasn't very good. Even though I did it for a long time, I didn't make it to the elite international level, but I played county cricket, which was the next level down, and I was okay. But generally, it was if they were short one day, they kind of got me to play instead, and that was nice. I kind of see myself as a player. If you can try and sort of marry it with the NFL theme, someone who would come in and now and again have a good day, and then the rest of the time was ignored completely. So if there is an NFL player that you can think of off the top of your head, I don't know, maybe when Frank Wright took over from Jim Kelly in those Buffalo Bill days, and he had a couple of good days with them, but the rest of the time he was a backup and not really warranted while Jim Kelly was doing all the stuff. So I did that for, like I say, 10 years, had to retire through injury. The world of cricket was not sad to see me go, put it that way. And then whilst I was playing, I actually, in the winter times, the cricket summer sport, and in the winter times, I learnt about broadcasting. I learnt at the local radio station and spent all of the winters just training there, learning how to use my voice, read scripts, drive the radio desks, edit, all those real the tools that you need for broadcast. And I did local radio for numerous years, probably 6, 7, 8 years, until my commentary on cricket was picked up on by, back in the UK, or in the UK, which is quite an iconic radio program called Test Match Special. It's been going 60 odd years. It is truly unique as a program. And if you imagine getting selected for international sport or playing for your country, I never got that opportunity as a player. 600, 700 people have got selected for England as a cricket international. Probably 30 or 40 in total have been selected to do play-by-play or ball-by-ball commentary on Test Match Special. I'm one of them, and it's a very proud thing to have, and now that is developed onto the television screen as well with Sky Sports commentating on cricket, which I absolutely adore. So in a nutshell, that is my playing and broadcast career. Do lots of other different things, of course, as broadcasters do. And that has allowed me to actually delve into my true love, which is the NFL. So I would consider cricket's my job. Cricket is my job. The NFL is my hobby and my joy. It's my passion, if you like. Don't get me wrong, there are thousands upon millions of people who know more about the NFL than I do, and the X's and O's behind it, and all of the statistics, and you name it. He's from this university, and etc. etc. There are many more who know more than I do, but I love it. I absolutely love it, and every spare moment I get is really either reading about it or watching some random program on the NFL Network off Game Pass. I love the historical programs, the football lives, the stories of the draft in times gone by. I think they're fascinating. Much like cricket, it's amazing. I told you I'd keep it short. I've done well, haven't I? It's amazing the alignment the two sports have, and you think, well, how on earth did they align? My dream job. I'm very lucky. I have hit every goal that I set myself. To become a professional cricketer, to do it for a living, to broadcast on Test Match Special, to go and broadcast on Sky Sports. I'm very lucky to have hit every goal, and one has to reassess because you want to keep striving. And my next one, which may be a little bit of a long shot, is to actually broadcast the NFL over in America and become a play-by-play guy out there. Now, how the American audience would deal with an Englishman talking about their national pastime, I don't know. But it's a dream and it's a goal. But the two sports are aligned in such a way where in cricket, you get 6 seconds of action and then you have to wait 30 seconds before the next delivery is bowled. Well, it's not too dissimilar rhythm in American football. So there is one way. I've done a couple of commentaries. Of course, the jargon and the language is slightly different, but I loved it. I mean, I really loved describing the game. That's what I do. I'm not an expert. I'm a guy who describes things for people who either can't see, if you're a radio listener, or to add to the pictures that are there for when you're a television watcher. So they are my two passions, cricket, of course, but I do see them in a very different way. One is my job, which of course I love. The other is a passion and something that's only a select few, I say, in the UK, an audience which is growing ever bigger, of course, but it's nice to be in the club that loves this sport. Yeah. And it's a special thing, especially having met so many fans at doing NFL international games and the stage shows there with Neil Reynolds and doing all of those sorts of things. Everybody has that bond. The NFL is a bond, especially in the UK, and it's fiercely represented, and it's great to see so many more people getting involved.
Thank you. That's a fantastic intro. Thank you, and we'd be delighted to invite you back one day, Charles, to do the longer version of that. I'm
not sure if there is a longer version. To me. I think I spread that out quite a lot, actually. So my apologies for that.
No, great to hear from you. And okay, so on to becoming a fan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Many Bucs UK members became fans because they were on holiday in Florida, and because of that, they got to a Bucs game. Yeah. That's my story, and I understand it's your story as well. Talk us through it. Talk us through that first experience.
So it was a family holiday to Tampa in I would say the early to mid 80s. I would have been 8 or 9 years old. And you've got to remember that obviously I come from Bolton, which is just north of Manchester. And as a child growing up, I'm actually a Burnley Football Club supporter. And so all of apart from Old Trafford at the time, the stadiums were 20,000 people, something like that. The closest one to where I lived was Burnden Park, Bolton Wanderers' old home ground. And that held around about that sort of figure. I'd been down there. I'd been to Central Park to watch Wigan Rugby League as well, and that was probably 15,000, 16,000. So we're on a holiday to Tampa, and we'd done all of the standard things. We'd done the Busch Gardens, we'd done Disney World, we'd done Wet and Wild, and all of these sorts of things. But Mum and Dad wanted us to go to a game, and we were sport crazy. So of course we were absolutely delighted. We all got little orange or the sort of creamsicle jerseys. Whether they were the official NFL jerseys at the time, probably not, because there was 4 kids. So Gad probably got the ones that were on sale at a table on the corner of the street somewhere. But we went along, and if you can imagine, the biggest stadium you've ever seen is Burnden Park. And you're walking along, and you then see Houlihan Stadium with its sort of velodrome waves, and there's no roof. There's no. Now, at 8 years old, this completely blew my mind. It was vast, colossal structure with no roof, and it was 3 times, almost 4 times the size of anything I'd ever seen in real life. I'd not been to Wembley. I'd not seen these gargantuan structures, and it just, I was blown away, thinking, what's cracking off here? What are we going to see? And then we get into the stadium, and it was these metal benches, and you had to pick up your own orange seats and clip them onto the benches, and we're like, wow. And then there's people coming round and selling you hot dogs or pretzels or whatever it was. And it was a preseason game. It was against Atlanta, I seem to remember. And again, weather was fantastic. It was glorious. It was baking hot. And then the players come out, and they're wearing these helmets with logos on. And I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And then there's cheerleaders, and there's all this music going on. I'd never seen sport like it. At football, you rocked up at 5 to 3, had a pie, went up, watched it, and went away again at 4:45 when the game was over. This was an all-day event. This was something that really fired the imagination. And I was hooked from there on in. So then it was like we probably all were. Some of you may be a little bit younger, but it was Nicky Horn on a Sunday on Channel 4. And you got glimpses of American football. You got an hour's worth, I think it was, or something like that. And it really stemmed from there on in. And it's a similar story to many Tampa Bay fans, I'm sure, from the UK. But it was just the difference in the way that they treated their sport in comparison to the fairly dour nature of the sport that we had in the UK. This was fun, it was expressive, and something completely different.
Is there a player's name that sort of sticks in your mind from that day?
Well, there was, I always maintain that my favourite Tampa Bay player is Steve DeBerg, and that was due to a hair thing. But the fact that he had his hair covering his ears, I just loved that. If memory serves, I want to say that James Wilder was playing, but it was a pre-season game, and if I'm being honest, I wouldn't remember whether Kevin House was playing at the time. I'm thrown out that I genuinely don't know, because at 8 years old, there's hundreds of them. You know, you're used to 11 versus 11, and then there's thousands of people who were all dressed for the game. So, and it was pre-season, so, and I didn't understand it. We thought, we would have assumed it was like the first team playing, but obviously with it being pre-season and knowing what you know now, it most likely wasn't. But oh, what a thrilling introduction to the world of American football.
I think, like for many of us, it's a life-changing moment, isn't it, in terms of sports watching when you first get into the NFL. So, I was going to say, obviously it's been an extraordinary last 12 months in the world, but it's also been an extraordinary last 12 months for the Bucs. So I was going to ask you, Charles, just to kind of wind back a year. The Bucs UK members were having a rather lively debate, as were Bucs fans everywhere, about Jameis. Should he stay or should he go? So 2 questions for you, Charles. Firstly, which side of the Jameis fence were you on? And secondly, how did you feel when you realised that the Tom Brady was becoming a Buccaneer?
Okay, I don't know if anybody follows me on social media. If you do your historical tweet check, I hated the fact that we drafted Jameis. I thought he was a bust straight away. Now, that's harsh, very, very harsh. And I think it's unfair to call him a bust. I don't think that's right. You know, the guy threw for 5,000 yards. You know, and and many, many touchdowns and many interceptions. And he was just as good as throwing to the other team as he was throwing to our guys. Look, I never thought he would take us to a Super Bowl, which I thought he was, of course, with Marcus Mariota at the same time. The two were heralded as the best quarterbacks in the draft. We needed one, and so then you can understand why they went down that path. I never liked the pick, and I'm terrible as a Bucs fan, I have to say, because I'm so pessimistic. I'm so pessimistic when I watch us, and it's always good to be that way. So you're nicely surprised when they do something well. So I was only too happy to see him go, and that's no detriment to him as a bloke or a player. I actually saw it. I had my sort of professional sport glasses on, if you like, and this, knowing that, I thought that, I was a bit up in the air about whether the two would marry, in that Jameis Winston and Bruce Arians, the kind of offense he wanted to run, and whether Jameis had the package to run it. And I just never thought that he did. He wasn't. I actually would have preferred us to have selected Marcus Mariota because he was mobile. And at the time, if memory serves, our offensive line wasn't sensational. It's improved dramatically since then, with some very good drafting, I feel. And so, yeah, I was never on board with Jameis, I'm afraid. And then when the news that Tom Brady was coming, it seems ridiculous now because we're talking about it in Super Bowl week, and so he's got us there. But do you take a punt on a guy who's won 6 Super Bowls? Yeah. Now, why do you say that? And I cast my mind back 12 months. I didn't think he would lead us to the Super Bowl. What I did think he would do is lead us to the playoffs. I thought the supporting cast around him defensively, the weapons that he's got at his disposal, the protection that he would get, and I was hoping that we'd draft a tackle. We did, and a good one as well. We've seen he is a serious player, Tristan Wirfs. And I thought, much like probably the Rams feel right now, they're a quarterback short of making a run. That's why they've gone out and got Matthew Stafford. Now, getting Matthew Stafford and getting Tom Brady is a completely different kettle of fish, but that's how they will probably feel right now. This guy, what the Bucs needed, moreover, was a leader and someone to change the mentality of a losing franchise. We've not been playoffs, 2007? Since then, we've not had a playoff run since then. That means there is a toxicity in the dressing room, in the locker room. And it needs players such as Tom Brady to come in and say, this is how you win. They needed to learn how to win, what it took down the stretch in the fourth quarter of games. Now, this wasn't going to happen overnight, as we have seen. And as during the regular season, most of us will have thrown cushions at the television when certain aspects of the plan wasn't working out. But it's now, in January, where this guy knows how to win in January. So much so that he's got us to the Super Bowl. But it was the change in mentality of the franchise that had to change. If he spent, let's say he spends his 2 years in Tampa Bay, hopefully even longer if today's press conference is anything to go by. But if he spends 2 years and changes the mentality of the franchise, that it's 2 years and $50 million really well spent. And that was what I thought. The guy's won 6 rings. He's won 6 rings. What is the worst that can possibly happen? You'll have to excuse me, I can't remember our record last year. It would have been something in the 7 and 9s or in that sort of area. Off the top of my head, my apologies. But that's been going on for a long period of time. Yeah. This guy has got 6 rings. Even if he came in and was a backup, if you like, if he was injured all year, you still got Tom Brady around. You still got the mentality. You've got to be as good as he is within that locker room. And anybody not getting, making the grade in his eyes will get called out pretty soon, because what you're going to turn around to a guy with 6 rings and say. So it was more, I was more pleased that he would come from a mentality perspective than a getting to the Super Bowl perspective. I thought he would change our fortunes, not necessarily, given the division we're in and some of the teams that were in within the NFC, that he would get us this far. But
that's absolutely spot on, I think, about getting Tom Brady, as you said, Charles. Now, at the beginning of the regular season, on the eve of the regular season, the various hosts of this podcast made their predictions for the regular season. One of the guys predicted 16-0, and he hasn't been allowed to forget it since. But thinking back to that time, what were your realistic hopes and aspirations for the regular season?
I thought we'd be 10-6 and get a wild card. That's what I said on other programs that I've been on. I thought the Saints were probably the best team in the division. And I think during the regular season, that was proven correct. I think they were the best team. When you get to January, then all bets are off. That's when other aspects start to come into it. But I saw us as a wild card team. I thought Atlanta were on the slide. I actually thought Carolina were and I still feel this. And I'm, granted, there's a lot of people who are in the market for a quarterback in Carolina. I think you could do a lot worse than Teddy Bridgewater as a holding guy to revamp other areas. And I actually thought they were would be. I didn't think they'd go anywhere, but I actually think they're a club that are actually going to slowly rise over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, whether that's with Bridgewater or with somebody else. So that's what I said at the start of the season: 10-6 playoff team. If we can get through a wild card round, great. But I saw us as a divisional playoff team, and if everything falls in our favour, then yes, we could make a run. But that's what I saw pre-season.
And the guys on the podcast with me tonight are very modest gentlemen. Alex predicted 11-5 and was spot on, and I think Kieran was 10-6 as well. So we were all in pretty much the.
Who predicted 16-0?
And he's scared to show his face tonight.
What was he smoking at that prediction? Crikey.
So on 11-5 and we're in the playoffs. Obviously great wins on the road in Washington, in New Orleans, and on to Green Bay for the championship game. So okay, early in the third quarter,
yeah,
the Bucs were leading 28-10. A number of us in the Bucs UK dared to dream, and a few at that point even declared victory. Tell us a bit about your emotions during the game, and at what point did you really believe that we were actually going to the big game?
Right. It's slightly different from the Saints game to the Packers game to the Super Bowl coming up. I thought the Saints would beat us. Actually, I know it's very difficult to beat a side 3 times in a row. I actually thought the Saints would beat. I knew we'd get past Washington. I had no problems on that front. I thought the Saints would be a good game. It wasn't the fact that I didn't back us to win. I thought we could win that game, and was delighted when we did. Then you get to the Packers. The only person I believe in the entire league who could beat Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay in the cold weather was Tom Brady. Of any of the 30 other quarterbacks in that league, I genuinely believe Tom Brady is the only person that could have beaten Aaron Rodgers on that day. And I fold in the talents of people like Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson and all of these, young stars who have got all this ability and all this talent. It was him. I wouldn't have thought Russell Wilson could have beaten him up there. But I knew that Tom Brady could. And therein lies my problem, because I actually expected Tampa Bay to win that game. And it's totally different watching a game when you're hopeful, or than when you're actually inside going, yeah, they're going to win this, prior to the game starting. So we get out to the lead, or was it 24-10 we were leading? I seem to remember this. And of course, you don't necessarily, 24-10 is nothing to Aaron Rodgers. This is a guy who is an artist at the quarterback position, and again, in his own surroundings at Lambeau, with a crowd as well. So if anyone's coming back, it's that guy. So that's why it was such a tasty game. I mean, it really was. And then when they start clawing it, the moment I thought we had won that game is when they didn't go for it on fourth down. I genuinely thought that even at that lead, there was no lead big enough, unless the mathematics really didn't. If the Bucs were 3 touchdowns up and there was 3 minutes to play in the fourth quarter, then okay, that's fair enough. But the nature of the game, when they didn't go for it fourth down, I as a Bucs fan, was shouting at the television at Matt LaFleur, going, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're on the 6 or whatever it was they were on. Fourth down, Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, and our secondary is questionable, right? If ever, and you kick a field goal." And I'm just going, what are you doing? In a sort of, in a disbelieving sense of the decision that was made, that was actually overtaking my joy at the fact that I knew that the Bucs were going to win that game because of that decision that was made. So that was when I knew we'd won it. That decision was so unbelievable, so ridiculous that given where they were, if they're on the 26 and it's fourth down, yeah, fine, kick your field goal and hope to it. But on the 6, sorry, that was when I knew we'd won it. And it was more relief because I'd expected us to win. This coming week against Kansas City, I'm sure we'll talk about it. I don't expect us to win. I think there are a lot of Kansas City. There is a lot about them that scares me as a Bucs fan. And I think quite rightly, I think Kansas City are going in 4-point favourites. I think that's what's being said. You might have to check. And I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair, and that sounds about right to me. But again, who knows what comes Super Bowl Sunday? But I'm not expecting it like I was at Green Bay. More fool me, but goodness me, the roller coaster of emotions that were that evening. I was knackered. When I watched Kansas Buffalo, I was shot. I had to leave at halftime. Kansas City Buffalo, I was knackered. Couldn't watch the rest of it.
I think you're absolutely right about the emotion at the end of the Packers game. A lot of it for us, a lot of us, was just that relief because we were daring to dream. We thought we could get there, and it was that relief. So now, in terms of the kind of last couple of questions from me, Charles, in terms of my little bit, is obviously turning now to the Super Bowl. Now, as is tradition on our podcast, we'll do our score predictions at the end of the podcast. So hold that particular thought for now in terms of a score prediction. But keen to hear your thoughts generally on the game. What do you see the keys to the game being, and who do you think the players to watch are, and fundamentally, what do the Bucs need to do to win?
I'm sure that a lot of people will have similar thoughts to me. I'll go with the things that the Bucs, from our perspective, the things that I'm happy about, and this is, I don't wish injury on any player in any sport whatsoever. The good news for the Bucs are the 2 tackles, which are out for Kansas City, and when you've got bookends in Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, a middle of Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea and Nunes Rocha, Sanchez, Gonzalez in the middle. I love it. He's got 17 names. So I think the front 4, as they have done so often, is absolutely pivotal. The fact that 2 tackles being out for KC, that is not a good thing. If only Patrick Mahomes was good outside the pocket. Damn it. So. So there has to be, and Todd Bowles has to come up with quite a select defensive strategy rather than, well, we're going to run him down, because that's fine for Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't need a lot. He doesn't need a huge amount of space to move. He is so good on the move as well. I worry about, and I think we all will, about people like Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce against our secondary. I'm still not sold on our secondary at all. I think our safeties are great. I don't know if Whitehead's fit, and I hope that he will be. And I also hope that Antoine Winfield, who I think is a fabulous player, I hope that he will be fit as well. I'm not sold on our corners, not one of them. And I think the reason that we pick up interceptions is genuinely because of the nuisance of the front four and the absolute lightning speed of the linebacking core. So I think the player of the playoffs for me has been Devin White. I think he has shown that he is the elite linebacker, and I am going to go whole hog and say in the league. I think he has everything. The way he reads the game, his blistering speed, his tackling ability, I think he is second to none. How they missed him for the Pro Bowl voting, goodness only knows. So I think there are concerns for me against the receiving core. I don't think Casey will run on us. Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell are injured at the moment and might not be at 100%. I still don't think no one can run on us. So I don't think that's a huge concern. My concern is Mahomes to his receiving core, and the time that he has in behind the line of scrimmage, because he's so mobile and he sees that, and his arm strength, his ability to make the ridiculous throw out of absolutely nowhere against our secondary. That's where I'm worried from our perspective. I don't know about you guys, but the Bruce Arians offense isn't necessarily the offense that I particularly like. And even though we have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who's struggling to catch at the moment, I don't know what's going on there, but even though we have again, I would argue that we have the elite receiving core in the league. In Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, you have Cameron Brate and Rob Gronkowski. Now, I think they are five very, very dangerous players in the wideout spots. I have no problems necessarily against the Kansas pass rush. I think our offensive line can hold up to that okay. I don't see it. I see it being a little bit of a reverse. But I worry that we don't necessarily play into Tom Brady's hands. In that, how many times, genuinely, you guys will watch, how many times do you get down to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1? And then we see Tom launching it 30 yards down the sideline, hoping to get Mike Evans one-on-one. I'm going, what are you doing? Was it against the Saints? I think it was. When we stuck a 16-play drive together, and I think it was against the Saints, we'd struggled. We had 2 3-and-outs early. And then we put a 16-play drive. We used both Fournette and Ronald Jones. We actually just dropped back, played Brady ball, 5-yard catch here, 9-yard catch there. We got it to 2nd and 1. If you want to try your deep shots on 1st and 10 or 2nd and 3, absolutely, you carry on. Because that's what we have the ability, when he gets the matchup he likes, Evans against pretty much anybody one-on-one, then yeah, take the deep shot. Don't do it on 3rd and 2. Now, I have been completely gazumped by the touchdown that was scored in the back end of the first half against Green Bay. And he's launched it up there. I go, what? No, would you please? Oh, play. Good. Yeah, excellent. Really good play caller. So it is frustrating in that respect because we have a guy who is, pinpoint accurate. He is in control. And I would like to see our play calling a little bit more, just a little, not a lot. I'm not asking us to be boring, but I would like to see a little bit more conservatism. If all of those aspects come together, then we'll win it by 6 touchdowns. No, I still feel it will be close whatever happens, because I think defensively we can disrupt them. I have to lean on Kansas City for their youth, for Mahomes, who is a generational talent, but you're going up against a guy who's got 6. And I think it's tasty. I have the Kansas City Chiefs slight favourites. And if that is the case, and if they are slight favourites, and if it's 1 score going into the back end of the 4th, it's anybody's game.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts, Charles. I say we'll come back at the very end to
I hope you can
do our
edit this.
predictions.
I hope you really can edit this. All of my answers were supposedly going to be short, and now I've just whittled on for however long that you have.
Well, thank you very much, on behalf of all the Bucs UK members for sharing those thoughts. I say we've got a few member questions coming up, and then the score predictions at the end. But for now, it's over to you, Kieran.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, as ever, we give our thanks to Bucs Report for their help in promoting our podcast. It's really great being part of the Tampa fan fraternity. It's not just a fraternity; everyone's involved. And it was nice to be on the Bucs Report after the game last week. Not least because none of us could sleep, so we were actually awake when they were going live. So that was fantastic. Of course, if you're watching this. If you're watching this and you're in the UK, you need to get on board. You need to join up. Go to our website, bucsuk.org. Click on the button that says join. It's only £6 for the year and you get your patch involved as well. And then go onto the forum and sign up. Our forum discussion board is the place to be where when we can't be in Tampa, we need to be talking about what's going on in Tampa. And we do that there. The Green Bay game, we had over 1,300 posts. I couldn't read it. It was happening. So it was almost like real-time commentary. So it was fantastic. It was really nice to see all the members on there. So I think that's get involved. And our Super Bowl competition is going live any day now. You can win a really special prize. I'm not going to tell you what it is because you need to go and look on the forum. But if you like signed memorabilia, this is the competition for you. Whilst we're friends with all the Bucs fans in America, we're also friends with all the Bucs fans in Europe. Not least, Michael 33 is on the forum. He's talking to us. He's our Eastern European Bucs fan, and the artwork he does is amazing. As ever, he's produced some special stuff for the Super Bowl. You can put it on pretty much anything, as you can see on these images below. Down in the video description, there'll be a link to his store. Do stop by and have a look. Charles, this is an exclusive club that we run here, but we'd be delighted if you would join us as an honorary member of that club. And to try and sweeten the deal, we've got some goodies for you. I'll have to hold on. So we've got some patches and some stickers we're going to send you.
Oh, lovely!
We've got your money can't buy Bucs UK pin. That will look very nice on your suit as your commentator. And because it's winter, you have your Bucs UK beanie hat to keep your head warm.
Well, that is just lovely of you. Thank you.
Not now on air, but send me your address afterwards and we'll get that out to you.
Absolutely, and my phone number is I shall will keep an eye on some of the Sky Sports cricket coverage this year if you can, and I will see if you're watching. I will wear my pin on a particular day, and hopefully it will be located on ComsCam, etc. And let's see if it's spotted.
So that's it. So you are now part of us, whether you like it or not, ad infinitum to eternity. It must have been like when you came out of that first game and realised the Bucs weren't going to win anything for another 15 years. So anyone that knows who Kevin House is a fine by us. So I will hand over to Alex now. Our members have been doing some great work, giving some questions for you. They were really excited that you were coming up. So we've got some quick fire stuff for you to answer.
Let's have a look. So I've got some really good questions here for you, Charles. So as Kieran said, our members were really excited. I put a post on the forum. We had some great responses there. So let's see what we come up with to some of these questions that they've asked. So here's our first question for you, Charles. This is from Chris. He asks, which member of the current Bucs roster would make a good cricketer and what would their playing role be? Oh,
that's a good question. Well, Chris, having had literally no time to think about this, I just wonder. Do you know what? I always had a problem with when I was playing bowling at short blokes. I couldn't bowl at short blokes. There was a guy who used to play at Sussex called Tony Cotty, and he was 5'4", and I could never bowl to him because he just smashed me everywhere. So I think Ronald Jones would be very difficult to bowl to because his little nuggety style. Who would be? I mean, I would argue that Cameron Brake could be a really good heavy ball fast bowler. Mike Evans in your kind of Jofra Archer type of cricketer way. I think he could sling it down a little bit. Bowlers, batters, catchers. I wouldn't. Well, yeah, I would. I mean, crikey, could you imagine bowling at Tristan Wirfs? I mean, you would never, ever get him out because he'd just completely cover. He'd also roll the pitch for you at the same time. Yeah, I would go with a big, bustling, fast bowler. I would say that Gronk's too big. I think Cameron Brate, there's a little bit more lean muscle on him. So I would suggest that he would be my big opening bowler. Is he nasty enough? Harvard educated, you see. So I would like to see that, say that he would be nasty. But yes, I will go with him.
Cameron Brate, Stuart Broad, and Jimmy Anderson. Yes, please.
Yeah, that'll be it.
That'd be a pretty good one. So from the flip side of that now then, Charles, Stuart asked, who in the world of cricket, past or present, do you believe could have played American football?
I did. Believe it or not, I did. I played for the Leicester Falcons. I was firstly
in good company then.
Yes.
I firstly started as a tight end because I could catch, because of obviously my skills as a cricketer. And then because obviously I spent 20 odd years throwing a ball, and I was actually the oldest person on the Leicester Falcons team. So I had that sort of sense of authority, I like to think, and that sort of general demeanor, that I wasn't a big party animal like all the young kids who were playing there. So I picked up the football and threw it like 60 yards down the field, because I could. That's what I had the ability to do. And so I actually, and I could throw it with pinpoint accuracy because I used to throw a ball in from 100 yards away over the top of the stumps and, nice and flat. And that's what I'd done for 20 odd years. So they said, oh, why don't you quarterback? I went, yeah, all right, fine, no problems. And I quite like the idea of leadership. The only problem was that I could throw it miles and I could throw it accurately. But what I didn't realize after and I did this regularly in practice and I was hitting players on the numbers, no problems. I didn't realize that I wasn't very good when there were big blokes running at me. I didn't like that bit. So then my awareness was so bad. And it was a shame because I loved it. I really enjoyed the contact. I've not played a great deal of contact sport. Right now, sorry, I was talking about me. Sorry, Stu. I just slipped into that. That's my apologies. I had to get that in there. Who do I think would be good at American football? I think Mike Gatting would have been a good fullback. I think he would be good because he's got the size for it.
Gatting up the gut.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, who's that unit who plays for the West Indies at the moment? Raheem Cornwall. Have you seen Raheem Cornwall? He's 6'8", wide. That's how wide he is. He's like a wardrobe. And I think he would make a fantastic tackle or guard. Australians, are there any Australians who'd be any good? No. Although I haven't given that a great deal of thought. I'll tell you who'd be a good American footballer. An Australian cricketer called Marcus Stoinis. He's called the Hulk over in Australia, and I think he would make a pretty good running back or tight end, I fancy. So yeah, there's those. Stokesy would be a good American footballer, wouldn't he? And I quite fancy him. I actually quite fancy him under centre. I mean, he catches pigeons. He's got an amazing eye. In fact, he's got two of them. So yeah, I think that Ben Stokes would make a really good American footballer as well. Excellent question, Stu.
Awesome, love that. But Ben Stokes, get him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as far as I'm concerned. I'd have Ben Stokes on any day of the week. Now, this one's going to put you on the spot, Charles. So no pressure on this one. And Phil's even said that. No, here's one to put you on the spot. If you could only pick one to happen, would you choose the Bucs winning the Super Bowl or England to win the next Ashes series in Australia 5-0?
Cool, that's a really good question. If I could choose one thing to happen, do I keep Australians quiet for probably the next decade after a 5-0 whitewash down in Australia? God, that's tempting, isn't it? That's a great question, Phil. Look, this is not far off a tie, I have to say. I think it would be the Bucs winning the Super Bowl. It's happened once in 55 times. We have won in Australia before. We've never won 5-0 before. But we've won in Australia, and at this time, you know, the way that cricket is at the moment, that is impossible to go anywhere and win 5-0. So yeah, I would say I would just nudge it. Although I've got a lot of, you know, seeing Brody and Jimmy win 5-0 in Australia after some fearful stick that they've, I mean, I could tell the stories of Stuart in Australia, but it's a close one, a great question, and I'm nudging for the Bucs.
I think you saved it there, Charles. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
But
That
you can imagine the juxtaposition that I've been put in, knowing that Australians would be just decimated as a country. There's nothing greater, surely.
So we're going for the Bucs there, are we, Charles? Just the Bucs.
Just by a nose.
Fantastic. And then this one just has come from John. He's just wondering, who is your biggest, or who has been, sorry, your biggest commentary influence? Really
good question. There was a lot. So my apologies if this answer does go longer than look. I love commentary. I adore it and I study it because I think you're always improving. And don't get me wrong, I am not going to be everybody's cup of tea when listening to cricket on the radio, or whether it be NFL or whatever, because we all have our favourites. We all have someone who we like listening to and those that we're just not that bothered. And I do. When I'm watching the NFL, I think there's actually a couple of really, really good young broadcasters that are coming through the Fox Sportses and the CBSs and all of that. But as a cricket commentator, you look to your own, but then you look further afield to other sports to see if there's ways that you can adapt certain techniques from that they have from commentary into your own, little bits of detail here and there, or tone, pausing, all of these different things. So when I'm often asked who my favourite commentator is, people often suggest that it's going to be a cricket commentator, and it's not. It's Al Michaels. And I can't tell you how good this guy is. You will like him, you will love him. You may not. I think technically he is in a class of his own on the television. And I would say, you know, people in cricket talk about Richie Beno. I think there are some wonderful cricket commentators, and I think a lot of them work for Sky. I really do believe they have got the cream of television commentary around the world. I think, you know, Atherton, Hussain, Bumble, Ian Ward, fabulous. I mean, brilliant presenter as well. I think he is elite as a presenter. I look around the world at cricket commentators. I think Simon Dool in New Zealand and Ian Smith, Ian Bishop from the West Indies. I think, you know, these are high quality. And Varney, Michael is you know, I know he winds people up on social media. That's what he does. But you listen to him as a broadcaster, and I think he's exceptional. He really is, because he isn't afraid to give the opinion. He can back the opinion up, and he gets it over very, very well. Now, not everybody is, and I'm talking there about sort of pundits / commentators. Pure commentators, Al Michaels is the one for me. I think his use and the tone of his voice on commentary, it's very easy to think that I am on the radio or television and this is how I should sound. I should sound as though I've got a microphone in front of me and this is the way I should speak. Well, you don't. You don't do that. Now, Michaels never does that. He talks to you. That's as simple as it is. He talks to you. He doesn't talk at you. He talks to you. In conversation with Chris Collinsworth, and that relationship is absolutely critical. I think, I have to say, when Jim Nantz and Phil Simms were together, it was pretty, it was bitty. There wasn't a natural flow. Tony Romo comes in and he talks to you, he gets excited. He's just himself. And that was the biggest piece of advice, the best piece of advice I was ever given. And that was from Henry Blofeld. And I remember, I'll try and keep the story brief, but I was just about to do my Test Match Special test debut in 2014. England, India down at the Rose Bowl. I'd done one-day internationals before, and I'm actually hosting a function over in Stamford for Dean Headley, the former England cricketer who was teaching over there. And I was doing a lunch there, emceeing, auctioneering. I get a phone call in a quiet moment from a number I didn't know. And I picked the phone up and said, hello. And he goes, oh, my dear old thing, Daggers. And it's Henry Blofeld. And he said, it's Blowers here. And I'm like, looking at my phone going, yeah, I kind of know. I've only listened to you for 20 odd years. I know when it's Blowers on the phone. And all he did was wish me good luck, to say how much he enjoyed listening to my commentary, to tell me how to work with different summarizers, and to give me the piece of advice of being yourself. And because don't try and be me. Don't try and be Brian Johnson or Jonathan Agnew or Christopher Martin Jenkins. Don't try and be anybody else. Just be yourself. And I've stuck true to that. Now, being yourself in the days of social media that we are in now, sometimes it doesn't pay off for you, and people are only too happy to get on their keyboards and turn around and tell you how bad and how much they don't like listening to you. Well, you know, you're going to get that. But it was Blowers, and something about him is that he so didn't have to do that. He didn't have to ring some bloke he's never spoken to before in his life and give him some advice, but he did. And that tells you all you need to know about the bloke. As random as he is, and he is, as wonderful company as he is. You know, he called my daughter. I was in Australia with him, and we were in Tasmania, and I was FaceTiming my daughter. She was 5 at the time. And he called her my dear old thing. And he's 70 odd, she's 5. And she was still my dear old thing. So I listen to American football commentators. I think there's a really good young lad coming in, Adam Armin, I think his name is, who's one of the commentators. I can't remember which network. He's very good, very, very good commentator. I listen to football, John Murray, fabulous commentator. Horse racing, Ian Hunt, doesn't miss a beat, unbelievable commentator. So all of these different commentators and broadcasts I listen to just try and make myself better. So there's so many people, and I listen to American sports commentators. Some I like better than others. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Joe Buck fan. I'm not. It's just a personal thing. I think he speaks like he's on the television. It's not natural to me. I think Iron Eagle is a very good commentator, but we all have our own favourites, and I think that's fair enough. And they're not. It doesn't make them bad. It just is a selective thing. And so I would say Jonathan Agnew, to me, from a personal standpoint, has been a huge influence on me. But so many have been influential without them actually knowing that they were.
Some fantastic names you mentioned there, Charles, as you say. And Henry Blofeld, what a voice he's got, a great commentator voice as well. Charles, thank you for taking the time to answer those questions. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. So, Kieran, I'm going to hand over back to you now for the final part of the show.
Yeah, we've been dancing around the Super Bowl all day long. Now we're going to have to put our money where our mouth is and say how we think it's going to go and what the score is going to be. So, Charles, we won't make you go first. I think just so you can think of the score. Maybe Ian, if we start with you, and so you've been asking the questions, now you've got to answer one.
Well, very briefly, I think this one's got the potential to be a classic. I can see it being a back and forth game. I can see there being quite a number of lead changes. I think that, you know, history has a habit of repeating itself. And I noticed that Tom Brady's first Super Bowl win for the Patriots was a field goal as time expired. So I'm going, as my prediction, the Bucs to win 34-31 with a Ryan Suckup field goal as time expires.
That would be a fantastic finish for the Bucs' highest scoring kicker ever. Alex, how do you think it's going to pan out?
Well, our defense has been absolutely outstanding for, all season, but certainly this postseason in the run-up to the Super Bowl, they have been just out of this world with all the interceptions. They've just been playing out their skins. So I do think it's going to be a big scoring game. It's got everything on paper to be a high-scoring game. I do think the Bucs are going to win it. I'm going to go for 38-24 to the Bucs, but I'm also going to go out there and say that the defense are going to score 2 touchdowns as well.
Ooh, shades of 37. I like your style.
Definitely.
Charles, how are you going to call it?
If it's 38-24 to the Bucs, Alex, I will come and give you a personalised Charles Dagnall appearance at your house. Look, I hope you're right. Don't get me wrong. I'd be more than happy to drive to yours. I thought it was brave, actually, of Ian to turn around and actually, with given the kicker history that we've had over the numerous years. I still remember when it was Donald Igwe-Buike that kicked for us. I loved him. But I do see it being close. I see one side getting ahead and the other trying to claw it back, and it might not be enough. It might be one of those games where they do claw it back, but time will run out on them. I have a horrible feeling that'll be us. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs will get off to a sort of 28 to 14 type of lead into the fourth quarter. We'll manage to pull it back by 10, something like that. I'll go KC, which will not make me very popular, but I'm kind of playing the odds. This kid, no wonder they've signed a 10-year, $450 million deal. This kid is generational. He has redefined the position already, and he's only been in the league 3 years or starting for 3 years, whatever. I think it will be close. I think there'll be 3 points in it, and I think there will be points. I see a 31-28 just to Kansas City, and if nothing more, I'll be only too happy to be proven wrong.
Fantastic. Well, one of our members, Steve Gargett, summed it up really well. He said, I didn't think we'd beat the Saints. I didn't think we'd beat the Packers. So I'm just going to keep it going. I think my head is where you are, Charles. I think you have a 40% chance of winning the game. But you know what? That's not bad when you're rolling a dice. And, that's exactly what the postseason is, as you've said. For me, I think the biggest single key to the game, I've gone back and watched some Kansas games, not least the Bucs one. I watched the Bucs in 40. Yeah. This Chiefs side is not invincible. They can be made to be one-dimensional. I think for me, that will be the key. Yes, if you make them into long down and distance to go, then you've got to make sure you're marking Tyreek Hill. We know all of these things. But for me, the keys to the game will be Vaya and Sue and whoever's clogging up the middle up front. If we can stop the run game and keep them on to second and long, third and long, I think our ball hawking fast back end will do what it needs to do for us. So entirely symbolically, I pick a Bucs victory 48-21. In shades of 37.
I will say one thing. If you can drop Mahomes' decision-making down by half a second, that will make an enormous difference. And I go back to right at the start of this cast, that the 2 tackles being out for Kansas City makes a hell of a difference. When you've got JPP and Shaq Barrett bearing down on you, you've got then that middle level in Levante and Devin White, then your decision-making process has to be that much more swift. And if all I think we need is actually the corners to be solid, just solid. That's as good as, I think that's the top level for our corners. It really does depend on how we game plan for Mahomes. Yeah, you can double Tyreek, and they're going to have to. And they've got the ability to cover that in other areas. Can you cover Travis Kelce? Can you double him? Yeah, you probably can as well. Now, okay, you're going to leave some spaces, but you've kind of got to back those corners and nickels to do that job and hope that the speed of your pass rush is getting to Mahomes just that little bit quicker. So he's got to make a decision he doesn't necessarily want to. But It's how we game plan for it. One thing we know, it's going to be great. It's great that we're back. It's great that we're excited for it and in a position to actually turn around and go, do you know what? We can win this. We actually can win this. How it is just phenomenal. I hope it's not 20 years before we're talking about it again.
So, Charles, that's absolutely fantastic. Just before we close the show, is there any final comments you'd like to make regarding the Super Bowl itself, the Bucs season as a whole, or is there a player that or anything like that who's stood out to you this year?
What I want to say is, firstly, thank you so much for inviting me on. I don't get to talk to people much about the NFL, and it's always a pleasure to talk to whoever it is about this sport that we absolutely adore. So my thanks to you for inviting me on. Hopefully you'll want to do it again sometime. Thank you for my goodies as well as an honorary Bucs UK member. So I'm very pleased about that. We love a freebie. We always do. Never going to turn that down. And just to wish all of you a very happy Super Bowl. Everybody who's watching, all of the Bucs UK clan, and for those over in Florida as well. First time ever, a home side gets to perform in the Super Bowl. Got to be something in that, hasn't it?
Mhm.
Absolutely incredible. And Charles, thank you for your kind words there, and from us, a huge thank you to you for coming onto our show again. It's been great fun, it's been a real treat, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And you said about returning, we'd love to have you back. We feel we barely even scratched the surface of the stories you could tell us. So if you want to come back, I'm sure we can sort out getting you back on again soon. We'd absolutely love that. Charles is on social media, everybody. His links will be in the description down below. Please go and give him a follow. You've seen how much fun he is. He's like that on social media as well. So please go and follow him on the social media platforms as well. Don't forget, you need to go and smash that thumbs up button for us underneath this video. You have been doing fantastic with that. So thank you ever so much for all your support there. Please go and subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell as well so you are notified every time we upload. So Super Bowl 55 is just days away. Kickoff here in the UK is 11:30 p.m. on Sunday, and hopefully, if it all goes right, us Bucs fans here will be partying well into the early morning. Well into the early hours come Monday morning. And whatever happens on Sunday, we will be back next week here on the Bucs UK podcast, where we will be discussing the Super Bowl in detail. So all that's left for me to do is say a big thank you to Ian and Kieran.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
And Charles, another huge thank you to you for coming on. We have really enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you. And my final thank you goes to you, our listeners, for tuning in. As I said, don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to press the subscribe, hit the bell, enjoy the Super Bowl, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye, and go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs!